Now let us see the third method of deadlock handling, that is deadlock detection and recovery. So in the previous sessions we have gone through two different techniques, that is either we can avoid deadlock or we can prevent deadlock using some techniques, and if the system does not employ either of these techniques, then a deadlock situation may occur in the system, that is system allows itself to enter into a deadlock state. In such cases, system have to use some algorithm to find out whether there is deadlock, a deadlock has occurred or not. And if a deadlock is occurred, it have to devise some other algorithms to recover from the deadlock state. So this is how it will proceed in case of a third method of deadlock handling. So as you have seen earlier, there are two different categories of systems. Either all the resources in the systems are of single instance type, or different resource may have different instances or several instances. So we have to handle these two different categories of system in two different ways. We can see one by one. First type is all the resources are of single instance type. In this category, we can detect a deadlock using a variant of this resource allocation graph, and that graph is called wait for graph. So we can see how this graph can be constructed. So in this graph, only one type of node is there, that is processes only. So we are just removing the resource type nodes from the resource allocation graph. And if there is an edge from process Pi to Pj, that means Pi is waiting for Pj. That means the process Pi is requesting for a resource held by process Pj. And this graph can be easily constructed from a resource allocation graph. You know how to create a resource allocation graph, right? From that graph, just remove all the resource type nodes and collapse the corresponding edges. We will get a wait for graph. So construction of a wait for graph is much easy. Now, if there is a cycle in the wait for graph, that means there is deadlock. Okay, so detecting a deadlock in case of a wait for graph is pretty much straightforward. Just to check the presence of a cycle in the graph. So we can use any type of cycle detection algorithm in a graph here also to find out whether there is deadlock or not. Now, how often this algorithm should be invoked, that depends on the system. Maybe at regular periodic intervals, or maybe when a system goes down to some slow performance. That depends on the system, this algorithm can be invoked. So definitely the complexity of the cycle detection algorithm will be n square, where n is the number of vertices in the system. In our case, n is the number of processes in the system. Now let's see an example for how to construct a wait for graph from a resource allocation graph. So here is a resource allocation graph, and from which we have to construct a wait for graph. Okay. So we have to remove all the resource type nodes, right? First of all, let us take the case of R1. Remove R1 and collapse the corresponding edge. The edges are from P1 to R1 and R1 to P2. Collapse it means the edge will be from P1 to P2. The same happens here, P1 to P2. Like that, let us take the case of R3. Remove R3, collapse the corresponding edges. That is P2 to R3 and R3 to P5 will be collapsed to find an edge from P2 to P5. The same thing happens here, right? Like that, every resource type nodes can be removed and that edges can be collapsed. That's all to find out the corresponding wait for graph. Now coming to the algorithm, you can see the resemblance of this algorithm with Banker's algorithm, right? So what this algorithm does is, it will take all the processes which are yet to finish and will find out whether a possible sequence, any possible sequence exists by which these processes can somehow finish their execution. And if such a sequence exists, there is no deadlock. Otherwise, the system is in deadlock. Okay. We can see how it is actually done. So here also we are using two different vectors, work and finish. Work represent the currently available resources and finish represent the current status of different processes. That is whether they are finished or not finished. And as an initialization step, we will assign the value of available vector into this work vector, and will assign values for different I values in finished vector. How it is actually assigned based on the allocation vector. So if allocation I is not equal to 0, that means some resources are already allocated to a process. That means the process is currently running state, or it is not yet finished. Okay. So in such case, the corresponding finish I value will be false. Assign will be false. Otherwise, that is, if allocation I equal to 0, that means the process is already completed and released all the resources. In such case, the finish I value will be assigned as true. This is how it is initialized. Now the second step, what we have to do is, we have to find a sequence in which the system is able to proceed in case of all the processes which are yet to finish. So take all those processes which are yet to finish and find a sequence in which these processes are able to complete their execution. Okay. So find an I such that finish I is equal to false and request I less than or equal to work. Okay, that means take a process which is yet to complete and whose current request can be satisfied with the currently free resources. If such a process exists, go to step 3. Okay. So what we are doing here is that if such a process exists, we can immediately grant the requested resources, right? So that that process will complete its execution and will release all the resources allocated to it, and that resources can be added upon to the currently free resources. That is why we are adding the allocation I to work here. Okay, and make that process as completed by marking it true in the finish I value, and again find another process and repeat the same procedure. And whenever we are not getting such an I, go to step 4. So we are coming to this step 4 in two different scenarios, right? Either finish I is equal to false, condition is not there, or second request I less than or equal to work is not there. So in the first case, that is if finish I is equal to true for all the processes, then there is no problem, there is no deadlock in the system, all are completed, no problem. And in the second case, that is if any of the process finish I is still false, that means we are not able to grant its request, that is the system is in deadlock, and all the processes for which finish I is still false are in deadlock. This is how the detection algorithm finds the processes which are in deadlock. Now let us see an example for deadlock detection. So we have 5 different processes P0 through P4, 3 resource types A, B and C, A with 7 instances, B with 2 instances and C with 6 instances. And this is the current allocation state of the system. This much allocation matrix is given, request matrix is also given. And we have the available resources, we don't have any available resources for the time being. So we have to find whether this state is a deadlock state, okay? Whether there is deadlock in the system for the time being. So what you have to do is we have to find a possible sequence, right, for sequence of execution. So find a process for which it is not yet finished, that is its allocation is non-zero value, and whose current request can be immediately granted with the available resources. So what about P0? Its allocation is non-zero, right? So it's not yet finished. What about its request? Yeah, its request can be granted because it does not need any resources, right? So it can proceed its execution, finish it off, and all the resources available will be added upon. Okay. So now the currently free resources will be 0, 1, 0. And after that, what about P1? Can it proceed? No, right? It requires 202. We don't have that much. We have only one instance of B, nothing else. So P0 cannot proceed. What about P2? Yeah, it does not need any resource for the time being. It can also proceed. Now after finishing this P2, this will be the status, right? 303 by P2 will be released. That will be added here. Then after that, P3 can proceed, right? 211. So P3 also will be completed. 524 will be the available resource. So we can have a scan in any order, either from starting always or random or in a sequence. Let us scan for the time being in a random order. So suppose next P1 is selected for execution. After it 724 will be the currently free resources. Then finally we have the P4 in execution. So all the resources will be free after finishing off all the execution, right? So there is no deadlock in the system, and one possible sequence of execution is P0, P2, P3, P1 and P4, right? Now suppose P2 requests an additional instance of type C. So request vector of P2 changes into 001. Is there any deadlock in the system? That's the question. So we have to again run the algorithm. Okay, keep in mind the previous vectors. So we have 000 as the current free resources, right? With that anyone can proceed. Yeah, P0 can proceed. So P0 will execute and finish off and release all its resources, right? Its resources is 010. So one instance of B we got as free. With that anyone can proceed. No, P1 cannot proceed, P2 cannot proceed, P3, P4. Now one can proceed with the instance of B, right? That means there is deadlock and all the processes which are yet to finish, that is P1, P2, P3 and P4 are in deadlock. So next, recovery from deadlock. When a detection algorithm determines that a deadlock exists, then there should be some method for the system to recover from this deadlock automatically. So mainly two different options are there for breaking a deadlock. First one is simply abort one or more processes to break this circular wait chain. Okay, and that method is called process termination. And the second one is just preempt some resources from some of the processes inside the circular wait chain and allot these resources to some other processes in the same chain. That is how the second method works, and that is called resource preemption method. So we can see both in bit detail. So coming to the first method of deadlock recovery, that is process termination. So in this case, we have a set of deadlocked processes, right? Select some of the processes from this set and abort them. And reclaim all the resources of this aborted processes and allocate these resources to some other processes in the same set. That is how it works. Now, some questions are there like which and all processes should be aborted. Many two approaches are there to select processes for abortion. First one is abort all the deadlocked processes. So this method definitely will break the deadlock cycle, no doubt at all, but at a great expense. Say for example, some of the deadlock processes may have computed for a long time and the result of this partial computation must be discarded and probably will have to be recomputed later. So such cost will be incurred in this case. So the second option is that abort one process at a time until the deadlock cycle is eliminated. This is a more economic than the first case, but the problem here is that this method incurs considerable overhead. Since after each process is aborted, a deadlock detection algorithm must be invoked to again check whether the deadlock is still there or not and repeat the process until the deadlock chain is broken. Now, aborting a process is not an easy job. Just for example, if the process was in the midst of updating a file, terminating it will leave that file in an incorrect state, right? Like that, many issues are there. And also, if the partial termination method is used, then a decision should be taken each time, like which process should be selected for termination. Just like we select a process for CPU scheduling, right? We have to make a decision each time before selecting a process. So which process should be selected? Obviously, we have to select a process with the minimum cost. Again, that is a challenging thing, that is determining the cost of a process abortion. That is also is not straightforward to measure. Just for example, many factors affect the cost of a process, right? Like what is the priority of that process and or how long the process has already computed and how more it have to be computed, or what are the different resources already allocated to that process, and also what are the different resources it is already waiting for, or how many processes will need to be terminated if we select this process as for abortion. Like that, lot many factors are the nature of this process are also affected. So lot many factors have to be considered. Coming to the second method of deadlock recovery, that is resource preemption. So we are not aborting any process in this case. Instead, we will select some of the process and preempt the resources held by these process and allocate those resources to some other processes in the same set of deadlocked processes. And this procedure will be repeated until the deadlock cycle is broken. And here also there are some issues to be addressed, like selecting a victim is the first issue, that is which resources and which processes are to be preempted. So as in case of process termination, we have to select those resources and processes which incur minimum cost. So definitely measuring the cost is not a straightforward task. So that's the first issue. And the second one is rollback. That is, if you preempt a resource from a process, what should be done with that process? Clearly, it cannot continue with its normal execution, right? Since it is missing some of the needed resource. So we must roll back this process to some safe state and restart it from that state. So definitely determining the safe state, that's another challenging task. So total rollback is one solution, that is almost aborting that job and restarting it again. And the third issue is starvation. That is, if you are selecting a victim in such a way that it will incur minimum cost, there's a chance that the same process is always picked as a victim. So as a result, this process never completes its designated task. How to avoid such starvation situation? That is, we must ensure that a process can be picked as a victim only a finite number of times. One of the protocol used here is that we have to include the number of rollbacks in the cost factor. It also should be considered while we select a victim. So these are all about this deadlock detection and recovery. Thank you.